how secure are password managers?
A major password manager has been hacked for the second time in 3 months. LastPass says it detected unusual activity in a third-party cloud storage service.
Password managers are software for storing a digital list of your passwords securely in what's called a password vault. Putting all your passwords into a single list and trusting software to secure it might be a scary prospect for many people. What if it gets hacked? They'll get access to every important account of mine. Using a password manager is actually one of the most important things that you can do to safeguard your digital life. In this video, we'll explain why computer security experts almost unanimously swear by them and how to keep your password vault super secure. It's also really important that you choose a good password manager, and they're not all created equally. So we'll also compare 5 popular password managers to see how they stack up against each other so that you can find one that best suits your needs. We'll give options that will suit most people, but also look at options for those who have higher security needs. Let's recap why password managers are an essential part of your privacy toolbox. Your passwords need to be way stronger than you probably realize, and without a password manager, this would be completely unfeasible. First, you may not realize how trivial it is to brute force passwords. Most people's passwords are way too simple and can be cracked immediately. Even longer ones sometimes just take a few minutes. As a general rule, the longer your password, the harder it is to crack. Your password should be longer than 16 characters. That's a lot of characters to remember, so a password manager will remember it for you. Next, every password you use needs to be unique, meaning that you don't reuse it on multiple accounts. This is because account passwords are leaked all the time.
3.2 billion email and password combos have been posted to the dark web.
It's likely that your login details for various accounts are already available on the dark web. If an attacker obtains the password for one of your accounts, they will then try it on others. Even if you slightly modify your passwords for different websites, it's still easier for a hacker to get into your account than if you'd used a completely unique password. You're not going to be able to remember hundreds of long, unique passwords for every account. So again, a password manager will remember them for you. Finally, your passwords also need to be randomly generated. This is important. When passwords are leaked, they're not usually in plain text. It's a terrible security practice for a company to store your password in plain text, so most reasonable companies will store a hashed version of your password instead. Basically, they have some mathematical function that they plug your original password into that spits out a scrambled version of that password called a hash. The website doesn't need to know your original password, they only store the hash, and whenever you enter your password, it will perform this mathematical function on it and see if the hash value that's outputted matches the hashed value that they have stored. One important characteristic of these hash functions is that they're one-way operations, meaning that it's easy to put in your password and generate a hash value from it, but if you only have the hash value, it's incredibly difficult to recreate the original password from it. And changing one tiny detail of the original password spits out a completely different hash output. If a hacker got access to just the hash value, it wouldn't help them because they need the original password to access an account, and it's incredibly difficult to recreate the original password from a hash. But hackers being hackers find sneaky workarounds. They started creating entire databases of common passwords and have pre-computed what the hashed value of these passwords would be according to the most popular hashing algorithms. These databases are called rainbow tables. Now, if a hacker gets access to someone's hashed password, they can search in their database for that value and see what the corresponding original password is. So you don't want to use common words for your password that might make it into such a database. Instead, you want a string of random digits. One of the uses of password managers is they generate random passwords for you with the click of a button and then save it for you. Having a long, random, unique password for every account that you never reuse on other accounts is one of the most effective ways to protect your online accounts from being hacked. And password managers make this far easier. They're actually an amazing tool, a unicorn in the security world, because almost every single thing that you do to make yourself more secure will also make your life more inconvenient. password managers are an exception. They will simultaneously make you more secure and also make your life easier. You only need to remember a single master password to access all of your stored passwords. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What if someone gets access to your master password? First step is that you have to make sure that master password is really strong so that it can't be brute forced. Remember our password rules. Your master password to your vault must be long, unique, and random. I recommend using a passphrase to secure your vault because a string of words is easier to memorize than a string of digits, but you must choose these words randomly. A good way to randomly choose words is to use a word list like the one EFF has on their website, where you roll dice and the numbers correspond to different words. You need at least 6 words from a list like this, and that will have 77 bits of entropy. Bits of entropy is a common metric for measuring the strength of a password or passphrase. Adding 1 bit of entropy doubles the number of guesses required, which makes it twice as difficult to brute force. 6 words is long enough to take thousands of years, maybe more, for current password cracking software to break. Following these password rules is essential for securing your password vault, but it's not sufficient. If someone puts a keylogger on your computer, they can steal that password. So you must also secure your password vault with 2-factor authentication. We have videos explaining 2FA if you want to dive into details, but the TLDR is that a security key like a YubiKey is the most secure form of 2FA. With this second layer of protection, even if someone gets access to the master password for your vault, they won't be able to access any of the passwords saved in it. They will also need to have physical access to your security key. With these steps, your password manager will be very secure, and you will dramatically improve the security of your entire digital life. There are also ways to use your password manager so that you can make it even more secure if you have a higher threat model, and we'll go over those later in the video. So what should you look for when choosing a password manager? Most of the well-known password managers are going to be fine for the average person, but like all software, there's a fair amount of trust that you need to place in them. You can mitigate some of this trust by using a service that has publicly available third-party audits, and that is ideally open sourced. For the most popular password managers, you can also look at whether or not they've had security breaches in the past. Another thing to consider is whether you want an online or an offline manager. Offline password managers store all of your passwords locally on your computer or device, which is helpful if you're concerned about the security of storing your passwords online. However, online password managers are more convenient and allow you to access your passwords from multiple devices and safely share certain passwords with other people. I think an online manager is perfectly fine for most people. A good password manager will claim zero knowledge, meaning that passwords are encrypted on a user's own device before being sent to the platform server. This way, the password manager service can't access your passwords, nor can any hackers who might compromise that company's servers. But it's worth mentioning some of the risks of online managers so that you can decide for yourself your own comfort level. For example, some password managers may have good intentions, but may not have the necessary expertise to keep your passwords safe. In 2019, Blur, a password manager, left a file openly accessible on one of its servers that contained the names, emails, password hints, and IP addresses of 2.4 million accounts. I wouldn't trust a password manager to secure my passwords if they have a history of such security breaches. There's also a risk that if an online password manager is compromised in some way, it could be possible for a hacker to serve you malicious versions of their software through the web. Online managers that store people's encrypted password vaults for them also present a very tempting target for hackers. Even if the hacker doesn't get your login details, other information like your login email and password reminders can be leaked. If you're concerned about these risks, an offline password manager might be a better choice for you, and we'll go over some options. But I maintain that an online manager is a great choice for most people, provided that you choose a good service. So let's look at some of the most popular services, starting with LastPass. They have over 30 million users worldwide, and all the bells and whistles you'd expect from a premium password manager. But despite its popularity, LastPass is very hard to recommend. They have suffered data breaches and multiple severe security vulnerabilities. In 2015, email addresses, password reminders, and authentication hashes of LastPass users were compromised. There was also a string of discovered vulnerabilities from 2016 to 2019. To LastPass's credit, being one of the largest password managers does make them a huge target, and all disclosed vulnerabilities were promptly patched. Then, in 2022, LastPass was hacked again. Digital storage keys were stolen from a LastPass employee, allowing a hacker to gain access to private customer information. They accessed the history of web addresses the users visited, email addresses, phone numbers, names, and billing information, and they also copied customers' entire password vault. Keep in mind that these vaults are encrypted, meaning that hackers are unable to access any data in the vaults, and that includes the name and notes fields. If you had a strong master password on your vault, it would take a hacker millions of years to crack it and access your list of passwords. But anyone who had a weaker password on their vault should be concerned. Changing your master password now to make it super strong won't help, because the old master password is the one tied to the hacker's copy of your vault. If you feel like you had a weak master password, you should go ahead and change every password inside this vault, starting with the critical ones like email accounts and financial accounts. These multiple security breaches lead me to not want to recommend LastPass to users. On top of that, their code is closed source, and while the company claims to do regular security audits, these reports are not available publicly unless you sign a non-disclosure agreement. Their Android mobile app also contains a lot of embedded trackers that send personal details, including the device being used, the mobile operator, and the type of password being saved. LastPass claims that no personally identifiable data nor vault data is sent, and that they only use this data to improve their service. But according to a report from security researcher Mike Kuketz, some of this data appears to go to marketing companies such as Segment. This sharing can be opted out of, but I don't particularly like the idea of my password manager sharing data about me. Next, let's look at Bitwarden. It's free, fully open source, and rich in features. I highly recommend this password manager. It's easy to use and also has various security levels depending on your threat model. You can use it normally as a desktop app, browser extension, and mobile app, and sync it across multiple devices. Or you could also choose to self-host your own Bitwarden server, giving you full control of your data with all the conveniences of online usage. There are free and paid tiers for this password manager. I highly recommend you pay. A good password manager is worth it, and this will allow you to protect your account with a security key 2FA option. Bitwarden also has audits of its code that are freely available and transparent. Bitwarden does have trackers in their apps, but because Bitwarden is open source, you can actually analyze whether they're being used for the things Bitwarden says they are. Bitwarden uses Google's Firebase to send push notifications to help keep your vault synced up, and Microsoft Visual Studio for crash reporting. Having reliable syncs across devices seems like a good trade-off, and providing feedback when crashes happen may be worth it, but at the very least, Bitwarden discloses this fully. But if you don't like it, you can always opt out or download the F-Droid version, which disables both. For most people, Bitwarden has a good balance of convenience, offering a great out-of-the-box experience with minimal configuration required, while also giving users the option to take full control of their data if they prefer. Next, let's look at Dashlane, another popular option with an impressive user base of about 15 million people. They too offer a polished experience with some great features. It is closed source, and while they claim to do regular security audits, copies of these reports are not available to the public. But on a positive note, there have been no recorded security breaches of Dashlane. I like Dashlane, but they recently stopped offering a desktop app version, which means it's only available as a browser extension now for computers and a mobile app for phones. There are free and paid tiers. A unique feature of Dashlane is that it utilizes machine learning to accurately do autofills across a wide variety of websites. However, we actually recommend you disable autofill functionality for any password manager you use, because it can present security risks. Another cool feature unique to Dashlane is the ability to change your key derivation function. You don't really need to understand what this means, and for most people, the default choice of Argon 2D is fine. Perhaps the best feature of Dashlane is its ability to bulk change passwords for many supported sites, meaning that you can change your passwords for any of the supported sites all at once with the click of a button and auto-save them. It's worth noting that Dashlane too has also been found to have trackers in their apps. Dashlane uses Sentry to track crashes and Braze to communicate with their customers. It's worth making a distinction between third-party services that don't really track you and provide useful functionality compared to actual trackers, although sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference. In Dashlane's case, it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, we can understand trackers that help report crashes and relevant information that would help the developers improve their product and fix bugs. Notifications of updates or renewal plans are also helpful. On the other hand, paid marketing attribution and usage details start going into the territory of more information than required for a password manager, even though it's considered part of improving the customer experience. In general, Dashlane will be an acceptable option for most people, but there are probably better options. 1Password is another established player in the password manager space that also has over 15 million users. They were recently in the news, having raised $620 million with some celebrity investors such as Ryan Reynolds, Justin Timberlake, and Robert Downey Jr.
How many of you have heard of 1Password?
While 1Password is also closed source, they are much more transparent with their third-party audits, and all the unedited reports are freely available on their website. They have many good features like password strength reports and secure password sharing. Vulnerabilities found in 1Password have been quickly remedied, and there have been no known data breaches. There is no free option with 1Password, but they do give you a 14-day free trial before you commit. One thing we found unique with 1Password is its travel mode, which allows you to delete your stored passwords temporarily when you're in other countries or crossing borders. These passwords are completely removed from the local storage in your device as long as travel mode is on. Immigration or border police in many countries can require you to unlock your device so that they can search it, so this option can be handy. It's also useful for businesses who may want to control which secrets employees travel with. 1Password is also one of the few password managers that do not use trackers in their Android app, even for crash reporting or syncing, according to Exodus Privacy. From what we've seen from its custom interactions in forums, responsiveness to vulnerabilities, and also its transparency, 1Password seems like a high-quality option for most people. Now let's talk about KeepassXC. It's a free and open-source password manager that's highly recommended by many people in the privacy and security community, particularly as an offline password manager. It's more technically complex though. Being an offline manager, it stores your password database locally on your device and does not rely on any external servers or services to function. All of the password management features of KeepassXC, including storing, generating, and retrieving passwords, are all performed on your device. One of the advantages of using an offline password manager like KeepassXC is that it can provide an additional layer of security because the password database is not transmitted over the internet, so it's less vulnerable to online attacks or data breaches. Not being reliant on any third party to serve you code can really boost your security and privacy, and we recommend this as an offline tool if you have a higher threat model. KeepassXC does have extensions for browser integration for Chrome, Brave, Edge, and Firefox, so that you can easily fill in passwords from your vault to your favorite websites. Generally, you'll want to use KeepassXC if you plan to use your vault entirely offline for increased security. It's great for higher risk people such as political dissidents or journalists who may be forced to open their vaults. You are making things more complicated for yourself by using a password manager completely offline, especially if you want to use the manager with multiple devices. But this trade-off will absolutely be worth it for some people. KeepassXC does offer the option to synchronize your password database across multiple devices using cloud storage services like Dropbox or Nextcloud. All that needs to be done is to save your KeepassXC database inside your cloud folder. This is not as seamless as using an online password manager. There are some quirks. For example, if you have several devices accessing the database at the same time, syncing conflicts can arise. You must be careful to properly log off your vault when you're not using it on the device. KeepassXC hasn't been audited yet because it's a community-driven project and audits come at a considerable price, but the code is all open source, which is helpful for community-driven audits. One thing to note, there are a couple of other open source password managers with similar names. KeepassXC started as a fork of KeepassX, which itself is a cross-platform port of KeePass. They are separate products though, with different features, and KeepassXC is what we're focusing on. If you want to use a service online, you might be better off going with one of the previously mentioned online managers like Bitwarden. But if you're looking for a password manager with the highest security and you don't mind added inconvenience, using KeepassXC entirely offline is a great option, especially if your threat model is higher. Another kind of password manager that's important to mention is a browser's inbuilt password manager. They're free, convenient, and most modern browsers have a way to keep them synced across devices via the cloud. Some experts say that these are insecure, while other experts say that for most people, these are more secure than standalone password managers. Let's start by talking about what they all agree on, that using a password manager, whether in your browser or a standalone app, is better than not using one at all. But there are a couple of reasons why I would not recommend you use the password manager inbuilt to your browser. Most browsers will store your passwords in a database on your computer, and they rely on the device's own OS security to keep them safe. But the issue is that if the computer is already logged in, these databases are unencrypted and unlocked. Some browsers, such as Firefox and Safari, provide ways to additionally encrypt them. For example, Firefox allows you to set a master password for them, but this isn't prompted by default. Safari's approach is better by saving it in Apple's keychain, and they prompt you to unlock it when requesting a password. Any respectable standalone password manager, by comparison, will store your passwords in an encrypted vault. Privacy experts like Michael Basil don't ever recommend using your browser's inbuilt password manager, because if you get hit with a virus that has a stealer log, hackers will be able to grab all of your passwords. On the other side of the fence are people like Tavis Ormandy from Google's Project Zero team, who advocates for inbuilt browser password managers, because standalone password managers often rely on browser extensions, and these can introduce vulnerabilities, whereas browsers can isolate their trusted UI from websites. I agree that extensions do have vulnerabilities that people should absolutely be aware of, but I think for the average person, a browser extension password manager from a reputable company is low risk and a good idea. If you're not comfortable with that, I don't think that your browser's inbuilt password manager is your solution, because stealer logs are a really serious concern. Instead, if you have a higher threat model, I'd recommend using something like KeepassXC entirely offline in a desktop app and just copying and pasting your passwords. In general, using a password manager can dramatically help you improve the security of your online accounts and make it easier to manage your login information. Some password managers are more secure than others, but the biggest risk to the average person is reusing passwords across websites. While there are fringe vulnerabilities with password managers, if you choose a well-regarded one and you make sure that you secure it with a really strong password and two-factor authentication, you're going to really help your digital privacy and security. It's an essential step in your privacy journey that you should start today. NBTV is funded by community support. If you'd like to help us keep making free educational content, visit nbtv.media/support. Also, just liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting on our content really helps. Thanks so much for watching through till the end. This is the end dance you get if you watch till the end.